Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. We're at the end of this book, Without Conscience, The Disturbing World of the Psychopaths Among Us by Robert D Hare PhD. This video will be covering the epilogue in the book as well as a reflection on the very last part, which was the survival guide. For the epilogue, Dr. Hare states, after they've reviewed the literature on a topic, it's customary for scientists to conclude with the statement that more research is needed. Robert Hare says he will do so for two reasons. First, in spite of more than a century of clinical study and speculation and several decades of scientific research, the mystery of the psychopath still remains. Some recent developments have provided us with new insights into the nature of this disorder, and its borders are becoming more defined. But he says the fact is, compared with other major clinical disorders, little systematic research has been devoted to psychopathy, even though it's responsible for far more social distress and disruption than all other psychiatric disorders combined. Second, rather than try to pick up the pieces after the damage has been done, Dr. Hare feels it would make more sense to increase efforts to understand this perplexing disorder and to search for effective early intervention. The alternatives are to continue devoting massive resources to the prosecution, incarceration, and supervision of psychopaths after they have committed offenses against our society, and to continue to ignore the welfare and plight of the victims. The criminal justice system spends billions of dollars every year in a vain attempt to rehabilitate or resocialize psychopaths and other persistent offenders. But these terms, which are popular with the politicians and prison administrators, are a little bit more than buzzwords. It's Dr. Hare's opinion that we need to learn how to socialize them, not re-socialize them. And this will require serious efforts at research and early intervention. The social and financial costs to society of failing to solve the deadly mystery of the psychopath will be staggering. It is imperative that we continue the search for clues. The survival guide began by telling us that police are informing us that a determined burglar can break into the house even if it's secure. I think what he's basically saying is that people are very vulnerable towards these types of creatures. We are not generally taught these creatures exist when we're growing up. At best, we'll be told not to accept candy from some old man, but that's about it. There are no courses to prepare the average person for becoming victimized by a psychopath or any other of the cluster B creatures. It's just not discussed. It's something that they leave for us to discover on our own. Most of us may encounter one and just think, oh, this is just one experience. Oh, it happened to turn out this way. Oh, it's unfortunate. But there's no prior knowledge that such creatures exist. I remember looking in psychological textbooks when I was younger, and I'd see the word because I'd watched those horror movies like Halloween, and it would say a deranged psychopath did this. So I'd think, ooh, psychopath, what's that? And I'd look it up and I'd read it, but it would never click as far as something I'd encounter in real life, because the way that movie portrays it, it's some monster that only appears in the movies pretty much. But that's not the case. In fact, most of these creatures aren't like Michael Myers. They are covered up with a mask of beauty and friendliness like a demon. It's very easy for creatures to perpetrate crimes. If you take precaution and special measures, you could help yourself avoid this if possible. It would have been nice if they taught us that in grade school. I agree, all the reading in the world won't protect you from these creatures. I just mentioned I'd read about these creatures. The context from the movie made it seem like, oh, this is a very rare thing, and oh, they're showing it in a movie. Oh, and I never thought I'd ever come across a person like that, nor did I know that such a creature also does other things besides stealing knives and stabbing people. They operate in more complex ways. Bottom line of it is, underneath this, they're without conscience. As the book says in the title, they are just different than most of us. His first suggestion is to know what you're dealing with, and it sounds easy, and he believes his book should help. But as we stated, reading won't protect you. When it's happening in real life, it's not like the person says, oh, hi, I'm a psychopath, and I am going to scam you right now, so this will happen. They won't. They're in disguise. They're covert monsters. They are acting like they're a regular person, just like you. And you are attracted to that, thinking, oh, wow, someone who's just like me. It makes me think of elite creatures who look down upon everyone else as goyim and think they're all just breeders and eaters, that they're stupid, and there to be crushed and smashed and destroyed. The creatures themselves don't feel like that. They don't walk around thinking, I'm going to be crushed and destroyed, because this is all hidden. Creatures are, as I've stated before, predators, which, if you haven't experienced it, sounds kind of crazy. But if you have experienced it and you look at the details, it makes perfect sense. Because they are predators. They are looking for someone they see as weak, self-assured that they've got what they need to survive. And of course they hide it all. On the surface you won't see it, and they're not going to tell you it's there, and even if you ask they won't tell you. So it's very difficult, because most of the time when you meet a person and you talk to them, you assess them by your interaction. So if you hang out with them 4 times, and all 4 times it was a pleasant experience, then you put in your mind, oh, that's a nice person, I have fun with them, have a good time, which is part of their game, because it gets you to lower your defenses and your guard, because you think you met somebody very similar to you, and you don't have any reason to be fearful, so you just let it go and tell all your secrets. And these creatures know this. They know that people will do it. And I think on an unconscious or maybe conscious level, they're thinking to themselves that you deserve it. If you're stupid enough to fall for their fake charm, then you're all theirs, which is really disordered. But I do agree with Dr. Hare's suggestion that you don't pay too much attention to the wonderful, captivating parts of these people. Like if they have the most beautiful Madonna or Ricky Martin face, and you just can't see beyond that and think, oh, that person's so beautiful, I want that for me, then you'll overlook the other potential problems. What I would do, just instinctually, is I would keep that stuff private. Just keep it to myself and think it, like, wow, this is Ricky Martin, or wow, this is Madonna. But I wouldn't tell them, because, I don't know, I guess I knew somehow that would give them some kind of power over me. But these creatures are usually well practiced. They've been through a series of different types of targets, and it seems like with what I've seen, they have like the video series, a bag of tricks. They got plenty of tricks in there. Choose one and use it. It might work. If so, they go with it. If it doesn't, toss that aside, and they pick another one. Their whole thing, though, is calculated. They're not a real person who's wanting to genuinely connect with you. They see you as some kind of object they want something from. So they learn the way to get it is through these methods of flattery and,
oh, you're the only person I've ever loved, and
fake statements that they tell to everybody. Another part I found interesting was the predatory stare that these creatures have. I've seen that. In fact, there's a creature I know called a Narcopath who has got that stare in many cases. It's frightening to look at. Sometimes it's almost reptilian. But I saw a movie too that was funny about the eye contact, where it's normal for regular people to maintain eye contact, but in that movie, Dirty Love with Jenny McCarthy, it was sickening, but one of the most funny things I'd seen in a while. Just, it's outrageous. She's taking her friend to an audition, waiting in the waiting room, and there's this boy there, and he's like, hi. And he's got this predatory stare, and he's, you smell so good, what is that? And she says, deodorant? It's just funny, but it's you will find people like that in real life. I just laughed at it because I know those things exist, and I see it here portrayed on a screen and just think, I know that kind of person. I've seen them. And they usually do such nice things for you. You don't just dismiss them right off the bat and say, you're crazy. Why would you stare at me like that? They've softened you up with their other tools or tricks from their bag. Some people don't notice. Others will when they see that stare. It's interesting how he states that regular people will maintain that eye contact for many reasons, but the creature, when they do it, it's more of a prelude to self-gratification, like they're looking at you like a predator would say,
this person has a nice car. This person seems really friendly and naive. I could probably exploit this person.
They're looking at you in that way, but of course they won't say any of it. That's what he's referring to, I believe, and it has nothing to do with empathic caring. But they'll make it seem that way. Like if you state, oh, I'm really thirsty. Oh, here's a drink for you. That kind of stuff is not natural. It's interesting how he mentions that some people do feel like they are actually prey, because that's what they are, and because we weren't taught these things, we experience them and just learn as we go. It's not something we were prepared for. Which I've done that in a few cases where I would feel that way, like something is wrong here. I feel like I am prey. But the person's so well versed in their game, if I even say something to indicate I'm kind of uncomfortable with this, it seems strange that you're doing this, they just switch the mask and become something else. And they just dig in that bag of tricks until something works. But either way, that psychopathic gaze can be powerful. You could think of it as they're glamoring you. It's interesting how he also said to the next time you meet who's got all these gimmicks, that a person who's got all these gimmicks that probably have worked on other targets, he wants you to close your eyes and look away and carefully listen to what they say. Although interesting sounding, the problem with this advice here is typically when this is happening, you're not thinking this way. You're not thinking, oh, this person might be a predator, and that's why they're acting this way. No, we're not conditioned for that. We don't typically feel that. Now, after you've dealt with a few of these, you may learn to look out for that, but typically we don't. So they may have that riveting eye contact or whatever it is, and we'll just think, oh, wow, this person's really exciting. That's the downfall in some cases, because they use that trick on everyone, and it lures into their labyrinth of sickness. And don't wear blinkers. He's telling you to have your eyes wide open when you enter any new relationship. Because, as I've stated a million times, these creatures don't come to you saying, hi, I'm a predator and I want to eat you alive. They present themselves as a very polite, friendly person who's tailor-made to your desires and your personality. So they do put that best foot forward. Dr. Hare states social intercourse depends on trust. So they know the ways to pretend to be trustworthy by complimenting you, by flattering you, and that does set us to failure sometimes because we drop our guard. We think, wow, this feels nice to be told these nice things by someone. I knew that I was really good at whatever, and this person sees it. Oh, we are not as discriminating. And all that stuff they do, which ties right into the love bombing and the idealization phase, where they're just so kind in any and every way, and that's not normal, because most people aren't that kind. Now, people can be generally kind, but this is going overboard. But then again, we think, in many cases, oh, I'm lucky. I just happened to stumble across someone who's different than all the rest. Oh, I like this. That's the whole idea. But he does give us the proper warning as far as the cracks that appear don't usually happen till much later, because, like in my case, I'd start to see cracks appear, and I would address them saying, hey, wait a second, you just told me you didn't lie, but then you just said you lied. What's the story? They would always have a ridiculous, retarded answer that did not really address it. It would just be, oh, well, I don't lie, but I did this time because of insert retarded excuse here. So you can't really get any further than that. You can try. You can keep asking in different ways, but these creatures are one-dimensional in many cases. They won't have anything else to offer you because, after all, you are their prey, and they're not going to tell you that. So you're usually left to be on your own when you start to notice various cracks. You may keep an inventory in your mind and eventually say, look, there's something wrong with you. I happen to have noticed that this happened here and this happened here. And when you start to list, then of course they know they've already over-flattered you previously and overdone everything else, that it's going to make it look like you are being petty, and you are being selfish and cruel to them. They did all these things for you, and
oh, well, what if I did mess up here and there? Well, I'm bipolar.
Something like that. So that's very effective at getting you to back off and think, oh my goodness, I hurt this person. It's been so nice to me. Oh, no, I'm sorry, never mind. And then you drop it, and that's exactly what they want. And when you're not looking, they probably give themselves a high five. And he's right when he says that once you've gotten hooked in with them, it's going to be very difficult to escape. And they know this. They set it up that way on purpose. They try deliberately to involve themselves in your lives in more permanent type things like, hey, let's buy that huge item together and get a loan, something like that, or a house or whatever it could be, because they know that they'll have you with that, and then they'll work their sick magic alongside this, and they think that they'll be able to keep you trapped with something like a big purchase. And I agree too with when something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Very true. It's a true statement. And I've seen it on multiple occasions. Yes, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And his suggestion of asking questions about their friends, their families, and their plans, and so on. I agree with all that, which I've actually done instinctively. Intuition told me to ask. It's not necessarily to get the true answers. It can be an exercise in just hearing what they say and what they offer, and it can give you an overall picture of what they're all about as a person. Listen to the things they choose to reveal and see if they're in-depth or if they're superficial things like,
oh, I love my sister so much. I just love her because she's great.
That's not really realistic as far as giving you a clue as to what's going on. Or someone who gives specific details about how wonderfully they connect with their sister because we both feel the same way about this detail and that detail and this specific thing, and they go on, then you can figure they're probably more genuine. Unless, of course, they're reciting practice lines. But yes, you would want to verify the things they say, not in a way that they can see, because then they'll accuse you of being weird, but you're not. You're being cautious because you know that these creatures exist, and you don't want to go through another experience with one if you can stop it. But they do give vague answers and evasive or inconsistent replies, which he hit the nail on the head there. And I'd ask the questions again, and sometimes be strategic and think, okay, I'm going to ask this question today, which will indicate how this person feels about such and such. Then I'm going to later ask them in a different context. It's surprising to hear them give the exact opposite for the other question, and then if you bring it to the table and say, look, I had asked you about this and you'd said this, but then here you're saying that, which is it? They'll probably accuse you of being too questioning, and they'll try to make you feel some kind of guilt for it. Or they'll just say, I can't help it, I'm not perfect, which is a common sick cop-out.
I'm not perfect like you.
And you never said, hi, I'm perfect, so I have a question for you. It's simply, hey, I noticed you said this today, but you did that yesterday. What's the truth? It doesn't mean you think anything about yourself. It means you're wanting to know what they're talking about and what the truth is. To keep your guard up in high-risk situations is good advice. Many of us don't follow, though. We just think, oh, I'm going out with my friends tonight to this place where lots of people will be, and someone comes up who's friendly. We don't typically think you got to have your guard up. It's a good idea to, no matter where you are, especially if you are in a position where you, like he says, appear to be like a lonely person or on your own in an airport, which I would naturally think, I'm here all by myself at this place. Someone might think that I'm easy prey, so I better look out. Sometimes creatures do come up and say things, and I typically just like, nope, no thanks. They don't like that because they're like asking me for money or whatever. It's like, I say no thanks. But yes, these creatures can sense situations if you're alone or you're hurt or you're in a social club by yourself. They think there's an easy target. Another piece of important advice is to know yourself, which I never knew this before. But yes, you need to know yourself and think of your interactions with previous creatures and how you presented yourself and see if that might have been similar with others or if that could have contributed. Like if you act really naive and stupid and they took advantage of you, well, that could be a clue. Maybe you shouldn't act naive and stupid. Because I've done that before. Act like the dumb blonde, and they actually think, this one's crazy and dumb, I'm going to get this one. And then they sink their teeth in or try, because I normally had a tendency just to be open about everything, whether it's flattering or not flattering. These creatures, you'll notice, usually don't tell you anything that's non-flattering, but they make it easy for you to give non-flattering information, especially when they tip the scale so unrealistically. You've met them once and they're in love with you, so you kind of feel like, well, I could tell them something bad about myself and it probably won't hurt anything. And then you, in the process, end up revealing your vulnerabilities, which of course they can exploit later.
Hi. No, I'm not Poppy. I'm not Poppy, Billy. I'm not Poppy.
I am the sexiest narcopath of all time. You wish you looked like me. I watched a movie.
Don't tell Mom the babysitter's dead.
Don't tell Mom the babysitter's dead.
And it gave me a brilliant idea. It was about this girl who was 16 who wanted a job so she could pay for her siblings while her mother was out of the country and the babysitter died. That movie inspired me because this chick bought a resume book and she just copied all the stuff out of it and turned it into this gigantic company and they hired her. Well, that gave me an idea. I did the same thing. I bought a resume book, so I tailored mine to the type of businesses I was pursuing. One of them offered me the job. It was probably because I wore a low-cut outfit and kept bending over to pick up things throughout the evening. It got the guy's attention. He hired me on the spot. Of course, he tried to make love to me. I had him fired after that. I told him that he'd grabbed my boob in the interview, and I didn't feel comfortable saying anything about it because I thought it was a respectable company, and I didn't want to cause any waves. And they got rid of him. They believed, who cares about due process? Just like that Kavanaugh. We don't care about proving anything. No, if somebody says something happened, then it should be accepted. Just like with me, when we were dating, when I told you that woman raped me that I'd messed around with, that you accused me of cheating on you with, and I told you she raped me. Even though that's a lie, I raped her. You didn't need to know any of that. I should have just been believed when I said she raped me. That's all it takes. How dare you not believe me? What kind of person are you to accuse a raped woman of lying? How could you be so horrible? That's an act I used and it worked on you. So I'm intelligent. You are retarded, Goyam. You need to go down to personnel.
Funny how
When you get there, you'll see this big sign that says
the never time for dreams.
You
Head over heels, went toe to toe. This is the sound of my soul. This is the sound. I bought a ticket to the world, but now I've come back again. Why do I find it hard to write the next line? Oh, I want the truth to be said. I know this much is true. I know this much